Have you ever met someone who felt like they were meant to be in your life, only to later realize they weren't? What if the people we cling to the most are simply passing lessons dressed as lasting love? And could it be that the deepest heartbreaks are actually the most sacred turning points on our path to awakening? That which comes, let it come. That which goes, let it go. What remains, let it be. This timeless Zen wisdom holds a profound truth that echoes through every relationship we've ever known. Relationships are not fixtures. They are flowing rivers, not stagnant ponds. And yet, we often treat them as anchors, fighting to hold on to what was never ours to keep. So many spend years entangled in emotional storms, grasping tightly to connections that were only ever meant to drift through like a season. They try to mold permanence from impermanence, building illusions out of longing. But the wise ones, those who have truly seen, do not resist. They observe. They listen to the quiet signals. They release. The belief that two people are destined to stay together forever is often born not from truth, but from fear. The fear of change, the craving for stability, for love, for safety. Yet not all connections are woven into the fabric of forever. Sometimes two souls cross paths, not to build a life together, but to awaken each other. Not to stay, but to stir, to teach. And the teaching may come dressed in joy or in sorrow, in companionship or in solitude. Even pain carries the mark of the sacred when it leads us to deeper understanding. The Buddha taught that attachment is the root of suffering, and in trying so hard to hold on to someone misaligned with our journey, we often abandon our own true path. Peace is not found in holding on. Peace is found in clarity, in the quiet acceptance that a shared road has gently reached its end. So begins our story, a story not of dramatic farewells, but of subtle awakenings, not shouted truths, but whispered realizations. If you were never meant to walk together, the signs will appear, soft, silent, undeniable. He arrived like the changing of a season, unexpected yet strangely familiar. She welcomed him like soil meeting the first rain, open, uncertain, quietly hopeful. In those first days, it felt like destiny. Their words flowed easily, their eyes spoke more than their lips. Simply being in each other's presence felt divine, but hidden behind that beautiful beginning was an invisible emptiness. Not in their actions, not in their gestures, but in the energy between them. There was no stillness. The silence between them, though frequent, lacked peace. It wasn't calm, it was hollow. They spoke often, laughed even more, yet the laughter echoed with loneliness. A certain ache lingered, like a shadow behind every smile. Zen teaches that the deepest connection isn't spoken, it is felt in the silence. When two souls are truly meant to walk side by side, their silence becomes a sanctuary. It soothes, it nourishes. But when souls are misaligned, even silence grows heavy, with tension, with doubt. You sit beside them, yet feel alone. And slowly, she began to notice. No matter how deep the conversations, something remained untouched. It wasn't that he didn't listen. It was that he couldn't see her. The soul knows when it stands before someone who doesn't truly recognize its light. The Dharma gently reminds us, if you are forcing connection, you are breaking your own peace. And eventually, time begins to reveal what chemistry once concealed. Zen reminds us, when the fog of passion fades, truth begins to speak. And so it did. The days grew into weeks, then into months. Familiarity settled in like dust on an untouched book. But as the surface grew more comfortable, what lay beneath became harder to ignore. And what she began to feel next was the quiet unraveling of something she had tried so hard to hold together. As the warmth of familiarity began to fade, what once felt sacred slowly unraveled. Instead of drawing closer, they drifted further apart, and the signs grew too loud to ignore. What was once accepted as harmless difference now turned into sharp disagreement. What once felt like gentle compromise now began to feel like a heavy sacrifice. The space between them, once full of potential, now echoed with quiet disconnection. What used to be effortless devotion began to resemble exhausting effort. When two souls are meant to walk together, the work of love feels light. You give not to get something in return, but because giving becomes part of who you are. You grow through love, not shrink for it. But in misaligned relationships, that natural flow turns transactional. Every gesture starts to feel like a negotiation. Every compromise chips away at your truth. She began to lose herself in the name of trying. He asked her to change, not in ways that inspired growth, but in ways that made her smaller, quieter, less radiant. She longed to be understood, but received explanations instead of empathy. When she reached out with vulnerability, he responded with reason, not warmth. Arguments no longer came from misunderstanding, they became a pattern. Even apologies became rehearsed pauses, short rests before the next wave of conflict. Yet still, she clung to the idea of them, the version that once felt divine. But Zen reminds us, be still. Don't hold on to the idea of what could be, if what is only brings pain. If the present moment is full of suffering, don't chase the illusion of future peace. Time does not reveal everything, but it reveals enough. One evening, she sat across from him. His body was there, but his presence had grown faint. His eyes wandered. He asked about her day, not with interest, but from obligation. She smiled back, not from joy, but habit. And that's when it hit her. Sometimes, the loneliest place to be is beside someone who no longer sees you. Buddhism teaches us, loneliness isn't about being alone. It's the absence of genuine connection. You can sit in a full room and still feel abandoned. And strangely, being with the wrong person can make you feel more alone than solitude ever could. She began noticing something unexpected. Her laughter sounded more honest when he wasn't around. Her peace stayed longer when he was far. When sadness came, she stopped hoping for his comfort, because deep down, she knew it wouldn't arrive. And then Zen whispers, if their presence feels heavy, why do you fear their absence? It was the voice of her soul. The heart often knows long before the mind dares to admit. One night, while meditating, she sat in silence, letting thoughts fall away like autumn leaves. In that stillness, a feeling emerged, wordless but powerful. Why are you still trying to breathe life into something that no longer breathes with you? That question didn't come from doubt, it came from clarity. Because when you're walking a path misaligned with your soul, your inner voice doesn't go quiet, it grows louder. It starts to ask questions you can't ignore. It aches in silence. It grows restless. And eventually, that voice becomes undeniable. She began to see clearly now how she had ignored her intuition, how she confused routine with love, how she feared the unknown more than she feared living in something lifeless. Zen teaches that the first betrayal is never from the other person. It's the moment you betray yourself by staying somewhere your soul knows is wrong. And when you're the only one still holding on, you begin to see that they've already let go, not out of cruelty, not even out of anger, but because deep inside, they've sensed the truth too. In the quiet unraveling, both hearts had already begun to drift. No anger, no explosions, just a silent acknowledgement that the connection was fading. It was as if they were both sitting in the same boat, yet rowing in opposite directions. The water between them no longer flowed. It pushed back, tugged, resisted. Their shared journey, once full of gentle rhythm, had become a struggle of imbalance. 5. One of you stops participating emotionally. In the Dharma, connection is not measured by symmetry, but by shared intention. It doesn't have to be perfectly equal, but it must be mutual. One gives, the other receives, and then gives in return. But when one partner becomes the gardener, nurturing, tending, offering, and the other simply accepts the bloom without returning care, the garden begins to wither. The relationship loses its harmony. He no longer asked the deep questions that once opened her soul, and slowly she stopped hoping he ever would. He no longer held space for her storms, and so she stopped bringing them. What remained between them was not a bond, but a habit. They had become actors reciting lines from a script they no longer believed in, showing up out of obligation, not out of truth. And then came the moment of honest realization. If I walked away today, he wouldn't follow, and if he left, I would not ask him to stay. Zen teaches, when you must convince someone to stay, they have already gone. The end did not arrive with fireworks or final words. It came in the quietest way, a morning when she looked at him and felt peace. Not the peace of reconciliation, but the peace of release. No blame, no anger, only acceptance. 6. You finally feel peace at the thought of letting go. Not rage, not sorrow, just calm. The storm of questioning passed. Her mind stopped asking, "What if?" Her heart no longer whispered, "Please don't leave." All that remained was clarity. Zen reminds us, enlightenment is the moment you no longer need them to be yours in order to feel whole. She didn't walk away because she hated him. She walked away because she finally loved herself enough to stop hurting. And in that quiet departure, she did not break the bond. She completed it. Because these signs, this slow unraveling, this gentle letting go, they're not punishments. They're not tragedies. They are the Dharma unfolding, exactly as it should. Every misaligned connection holds up a mirror, revealing our hidden wounds, our buried fears, and, most importantly, our untapped strength. When we refuse to see, we suffer. But when we accept, we grow. To not be meant for each other is not a failure. It is a graduation. The lesson is complete. The soul is ready to move forward. Zen does not teach us to cling. It teaches us to see clearly, to be present. And in presence, we stop romanticizing what we wish something could be. We see it as it truly is. So if your silence together feels hollow, if your efforts feel like sacrifice, if their presence deepens your loneliness, if your inner voice refuses to quiet, if they have already withdrawn, and you, in letting go, feel peace, then know this: it is not the death of love, it is the birth of truth. And in truth, there is always liberation, the silence that no longer holds. When the silence between two souls turns heavy, awkward, restless, it's the soul's way of whispering, "This is not it." In Zen, harmony is not measured by how well two people speak, but by how deeply they can share stillness. Sacred silence is like still water, reflecting peace, trust, and understanding. But when silence becomes strained, when it stirs discomfort rather than calm, It reveals a quiet dissonance between hearts. Ask yourself, can you sit beside them in stillness and feel more seen than when you speak? If the answer is no, then that silence is no longer sacred. And sometimes recognizing this truth is what frees us. Because not all endings are losses. Some are gentle returns to ourselves. When silence between two people feels like a void instead of a refuge, it becomes more than just quiet. It becomes a silent cry for help. A subtle signal that the souls, despite being close in space, have never truly touched. And in such moments, the worst thing you can do is rush to fill the emptiness with words. Pause, breathe, listen. What is your heart whispering to you in that hush? If the stillness makes your heart tremble, if it brings more anxiety than peace, you must ask yourself, why am I staying in a space that cannot hold my silence? Because real love, real peace, isn't found in constant conversation. It's found in the kind of presence that holds you gently, even when no words are spoken. It's when your silence is seen, not judged, felt, not ignored. Because if even your silence is misunderstood, how then can your storms ever be truly embraced? When love becomes laborious, when a relationship begins to feel like an obligation, something you clock in and out of, it stops being nurturing. Love, in its essence, is meant to be expansive, not exhaustive. It is meant to grow, not be endured. In Buddhism, one of the Eightfold Path teachings is right effort. It teaches us to channel our energy in ways that reduce suffering, not multiply it. But when you're constantly working to fix what keeps breaking, begging for attention, proving your worth, or shrinking yourself to fit into someone's limited perception of you, that's no longer love. That's fear disguised as effort. And love rooted in fear is not love. It is dependency. The Dharma does not demand that we fight endlessly for attachment. It gently invites us to release what causes suffering. Because if the effort you're pouring into the relationship never brings calm, but only delays chaos, if the peace never lasts longer than the silence after a storm, then what you're in is not union. It's survival. You were not brought into this life to lose yourself in someone else's shadow while calling it love. You are meant to become more of who you are, alongside someone who sees, nurtures, and celebrates your light. So when love begins to feel heavy, tiring, or even depleting, pause. Ask yourself, is this the kind of effort that nourishes me, or is it draining my spirit? Because real connection is not work that depletes. It's the work that returns you to yourself. The paradox of presence and loneliness. Loneliness isn't cured simply by being near another person. It's cured by feeling truly seen in their presence. Zen monks sit for hours in solitude, not because they avoid others, but because they meet their truest self in stillness. Paradoxically, one of the most painful forms of loneliness is being with someone and still feeling completely unseen. You might feel more alive when they're gone. You might breathe easier, laugh louder, or feel more at peace in their absence. That is not your imagination. That is your body, your heart, your soul sending you a sacred sign. Choose freedom over false belonging. You can share a bed with someone and feel like you're in different worlds. You can walk beside them and still feel like you're on your own. These are not fantasies. These are revelations. In Buddhism, mindfulness is about awareness, not of what we want to be true, but of what is true. And if your deepest truth is this, that their presence isolates you more than their absence would, then your path is already unfolding in a new direction. because loneliness is not healed by merely having someone. It is healed by being with someone who truly feels you, who meets you in the silence, in the storm, and in your stillness. When presence becomes emptier than absence, and silence reveals more than words ever could, what follows is the rising voice within, the one you can no longer ignore. If they cannot feel your heart when it is wide open, how could they possibly hold your soul when it's quietly breaking? This is where the journey turns inward, into the deepest place of knowing, your own chest, your own breath, your own truth. There lives a sacred teacher, not outside of you, but within. It speaks not with noise, but with clarity, not with drama, but with depth, and it never lies. Zen teaches us that intuition is not a mystical power or some sudden burst of insight. It is the steady, clear voice of your soul, refined through awareness, sharpened through experience, and aligned with your Dharma. And when that inner voice begins to rise, growing louder than the words of the one you love, it's time to pause and listen. It rarely shouts. It begins softly, a whisper. This doesn't feel right. You're being overlooked. At first, you may silence it with hope. You may distract it with busyness. But it waits, it watches, and it stays, because it knows. To ignore your inner voice is to abandon the only compass that truly knows your path. You may try to hold on a little longer, convinced that things will change, but the truth we avoid becomes the truth that frees us. The more you silence this inner wisdom, the more the world outside will mirror that denial back to you through heartache, confusion, and misalignment. So reflect deeply. Am I afraid to listen to this voice because it threatens the illusion I want to hold on to? Let the voice speak. Let it guide you. It is not here to break you. It is here to save you. Unlike the promises of someone who cannot truly see your worth, this voice will never lead you astray. The emotionally absent partner. You cannot dance alone to a song meant for two, and yet so many do, carrying the rhythm by themselves, hoping the other will rejoin. The Buddha emphasized the importance of Sangha, a spiritual community. In romantic relationships, your partner becomes your most intimate Sangha. If they are emotionally unavailable, chronically dismissive, or indifferent to your inner world, they are no longer walking with you. They are simply moving beside you in a separate lane. When one gives and the other withholds, the connection doesn't just weaken, it loses its very foundation. And deeper than the surface symptoms, emotional withdrawal signals something profound. One person has stopped believing in the bond. No amount of gestures, gifts, or apologies can substitute for that silent absence. Zen warns us not to deceive ourselves by clinging to the outer image of love while the soul quietly starves. And the withdrawal isn't always cruel. Often, it is unconscious, but its impact remains the same, a slow erosion of sacred ground. Ask yourself with honesty, am I the only one still watering this garden? If the answer is yes, then walking away is not betrayal. It is an act of self-respect, the peace of letting go. Many imagine that endings come with fireworks, with shouting, with heartbreak scattered across the floor. But the truest endings often come gently, with a deep breath, a long pause, a soft knowing. There are no more fantasies, no more begging, no more battles in your mind, just stillness. You look at them and you feel nothing but peace. Not indifference, not numbness, but clarity, liberation. The Buddha said, you only lose what you cling to. And once you stop clinging, even the ending of love can feel like the beginning of something higher. This peace is not cold. It is not resignation. It is sacred acceptance. It's the moment when you are no longer chained to the hope of what could be, nor the memory of what was. It is the doorway, quiet and wide, where suffering ends and freedom begins. Do not fear this peace. It is not emptiness. It is release. Once we release what no longer serves our soul, a new kind of peace begins to settle in, not from indifference, but from clarity. Do not confuse this calm for coldness. Do not mistake this stillness for indifference. This is grace, the kind of grace that arises only when awareness replaces attachment. This is the quiet reward of seeing clearly. Ask yourself gently, if I walk away today, will my soul feel heavier or lighter? If the answer is lighter, then you are not walking away from love. You are walking away from illusion. You are not giving up. You are letting go. Letting go of expectations, of false comfort, of a path that no longer aligns with your truth. In Buddhism, impermanence is never seen as a punishment. To say we were not meant to be is not a declaration of failure. It is not a curse or a condemnation. It is simply karma, unfolding as it must. Every soul we meet is a teacher. Some arrive to show us what love can feel like. Others arrive to teach us how to detach with dignity. But all of them, every one, holds up a mirror. You were not abandoned. You were redirected. You were not unloved. You were simply unaligned. In Zen, impermanence is sacred. What ends is not lost. It transforms. It reshapes. It teaches. So, let it go. Let them go. Let yourself go. Release the need to hold tightly to what no longer fits your spirit. And remember this: if it brings more anxiety than peace, if it leaves you questioning more than understanding, if your soul feels depleted rather than nourished, then it is not your path. The body knows, the heart whispers, and the soul always tells the truth. So walk on, not with bitterness, not with blame, but with quiet awareness. Because once you accept that you were not meant to continue together, you step into something even more powerful: the possibility of becoming whole within yourself. And that is the love you've been seeking all along. Thank you so much for watching and walking this quiet path with us. If this message touched your heart, please consider subscribing to Buddhism Seeds, a place for reflection, truth, and inner peace. Click the subscribe button below and turn on the notification bell so you'll never miss new insights on love, mindfulness, and the Dharma. And if you feel moved, share your thoughts in the comments. What part of today's journey resonated most with you? We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, may you walk gently and may your soul always choose light.